What's up, wrestling fans, trading card collectors? Welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Cards. When rare, oddball, and scarce items usually surface, it's usually Chuckster or Paul and And from the Wrestling Card Price Guide who alert me of these things. Both of these guys are no strangers to the Wrestling with Cards channel, and today Paul will be joining me to talk about some interesting cards that he has found from India. And these cards have all the qualities that you would expect from a foreign oddball release. The wrong names on cards, the wrong images matching those names, poor quality, unknown print runs, unknown where these things are even coming from. Those sorts of things that you would come to expect. Secretly, in a conspiracy theory, could Monty Gum still be making all of these cards that are being released all over the world? Who knows? Before we get into our conversation with Paul today, just a few reminders of how you can help show your support for this show. Easiest thing you can do, and it's free, hit that subscribe button. If you're liking this video, if you like all my other content, give me a like. And share this with a friend. Copy the link to this video, paste it in a text message, paste it in an email, get it out to everybody you know that you think it would help. If they're a wrestling fan, if they're a trading card collector, maybe they're both, maybe they're a figure collector, it doesn't matter. If you think somebody would enjoy this video, go ahead and share it with them, and share it on social media. Please tag me in it. Don't forget to check out in podcast form, if you do prefer audio, the Worlds Collide podcast. Myself, Tony Vella from WrestlingTradingCards.com. We get together each week to talk about all things wrestling cards. We've got different opinions sometimes we agree. And it's a lot of stuff that isn't talked about on this channel. So you're going to want to check that out. Subscribe if you like it. It's available on whatever popular podcast platform you so choose. If you like the audio version of just my stuff, some of the stuff you'll see on this channel is repurposed in audio form there. Some of it may be the same title, but it'll be maybe a different spin on things. I also like to use that podcast as a platform to just talk about quick hit thoughts that I don't necessarily want to make a whole video about. And that podcast is also available on all popular platforms as well that you like podcasts on. So search Wrestling with Cards on that platform and subscribe if you dig it. And again, share those podcasts with friends or family or whoever you think would enjoy those, including social media. Wrestling with Cards on Patreon. This is a page where you, the viewers of this channel or listeners of the podcast, or if you follow me on social media, whatever it is, if I'm bringing you value, this is a way you can help contribute monetarily. There are costs that go into doing podcasts and doing videos for equipment. So all of that money goes back into the channel. But this is a way to help support that while also getting the community involved. I say that because for as little as $1 a month, you can get your name in the credits of these videos as a supporter. There are tiers where you can request video topics each month that you want to see talked about on this channel. You can even join the booking committee and you can come on the show and discuss whatever it is you want to talk about. Also links to all of my social platforms, my eBay store, and links to buying me a coffee if you so choose. All of those ways that you can help show your support are in the show notes links below. But let's talk about these really obscure cards from India with Paul and And from the Wrestling Card Price Guide. Paul, what's up? Welcome to the show. Happy to have you back.
Hey, buddy. How are you, man?
I am doing great. And I think between you and Chuckster, you guys are like the oddball set guys, like uncovering some of this stuff that nobody else has seen before. So
somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, I'm going to give you the floor. You could just take off and I'll just ask questions as we get into stuff.
Yeah, what am I doing here again? This past week, actually last weekend, we added to the price guide 41 new sets, which doesn't happen often that we get that many hitting the site at one time.
Yeah.
And these all come from India. This is all the Indian trump cards, and I had one listed there. Two, in fact. I have one set personally. Chuck has one set personally, and it's interesting because they both are the same layout with different stars. But we knew there was more. Anthony had a few listed. Husker have on his site. But we always knew that there was more out there than what we were aware, what we were reporting, both myself and Tony on WTC. So I took a deep dive over the last couple of weeks because what had happened was earlier this year, we started talking more about the slam attacks in Europe. And as you know, they're a CCG, a collectible card game. And for years and years, that was pretty much the main tops release in Europe for wrestling cards.
Yeah.
And some kids were playing them, but over time, because they were so nice, they started to get collectible and kids and adults started putting them in binders and keeping them. So we talked about that. And then just recently, Tony had Richard Belligan, who's one of our mainstays in the Japanese market. He's a super collector for that stuff. And he's provided me and Chuck with a wealth of sets that we weren't aware of. So I knew when we're talking about Japanese and that the Indian stuff existed. But in the back of my mind, and obviously we're going to get into this in a little bit, is the dubious nature of the cards themselves, right? Because when I sent you a sample of the Miz, that wasn't the Miz, the biggest hooked up
Yeah.
sort of guy you've ever seen. You're like, super bootleg. I'm like, I know, dude. We're going to chat about the bootleg status of them in a bit. But what had happened is I think in Europe with the Slam Attacks cards is that because they were nice, people started to collect them over time. And now we look back and we catalog them and people are going back and trying to find these sets. That didn't happen in India. Kids played them and that's all they did with them. It doesn't seem to me that people, there are a couple of guys that I found, and I got a lot of research from a guy, Sunil, who was very helpful, who was getting information from his cousin in India who spoke Hindi, not English. So there was that going on. And he sort of explained to me that as kids, this is what they remember doing, is playing trump cards. Now, for those of you that don't know, trump cards are very simple. It's a deck of cards, and on the cards themselves, they have characteristics or attributes of the performers, and some are higher than others. And you split the deck, and then one guy goes first and says, okay, I think my rank of this such and such is going to beat yours. And if you happen to beat the card that's on the top of his deck, you get it. You get his cards, and it keeps going until you run out. Very simple. I think Slam Attacks works along the same way, same idea. So these young Indian kids, and there's probably like 500 million of them, started playing these things back in the 90s. And what I learned was that they didn't really keep them. You know, for them, it was in this, when we started talking about it, it was nostalgic for them because he remembers playing these cards as kids. He said that and cricket. And these same manufacturers, I'll start talking about in a second, make cricket as well as wrestling. And they released them in very large numbers into the Indian market. And kids have this memory of playing them. So nowadays, when you go looking for them, I only found 2 people that have any sort of collection. And this is in a population of billions, right?
Sure.
And the most of them are destroyed. You know, like if you happen to have a Hulk Hogan card, and you played that often because his characteristics were the strongest, that card's torn to rat shit. So you don't get anything mint in any of these sets. So that's what a trump game is, and that's basically, Zhan, the sum total of the Indian wrestling card market. The stuff we talk about on a day-to-day, very little of it made its way over there. The trump cards was the thing. So let's take a step back, because we're going to talk about these cards are all bootleg. They obviously didn't have the WWE license or the TNA license, and yet here they are. But I just wanted to define sort of black market. You and I both know black market is something that's either stolen outright or completely counterfeited. Yeah? When we talk about gray markets, and gray market is usually legitimate product through illegitimate means. So people that don't have distribution rights get hold of product that they shouldn't do, and they sell it into markets for less. Now in India, it's a bit of a reverse gray market situation, because what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with national recognized distributors, companies like Universal in the 90s, Mahavir, Adinath, Amango these days. These are companies that are large export companies that handle not only playing cards or trump cards for kids, but sugar, cosmetics, handbags, clothing. And excuse me. And these companies furnish the entire country. Now, the question is that you look at these things and right away, hang on a second here, they're full of mistakes. They're full of, they're poor quality. So yes, WWE did not give anybody a copyright for these things. Regional printers made these things. Legitimate distributors got hold of them and put it into their product mix with everything else. And that's how they were brought to market. And that's the situation, not only for trading cards in India and Asia, but a lot of products, like a lot of the stuff that these guys will trade in will be contraband, right? Because it's a bit of a different economy, the way things work out there. I remember when my buddy and I went to Jerusalem, and we went into the Arab market, and he found some Nike socks, and they were like 3 shekels or something. And I'm like, dude, those aren't Nikes. Shit, they might not even be socks. And yes, they're contraband, they're bootleg. But let me say this, and in the 90s, and Sunil's cousin mentioned this because he has a memory of it, the young kids were crazy in India over Bret Hart. He was the #1 name at that time. And during that time that WWE was touring India, these cards were around. So either WWE didn't know about them, or they just sort of said, well, it's India, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way things are done out there, and they just let it go. So I uncovered Anthony probably had about 2 or 3 listed on his site. I had a couple, and I did a deep dive on them and started digging, and I came up with another 40. There's almost a release a year. And again, anybody that wants more detail on this wrestling card price guide, and ultimately wrestlingtradingcards.com, Tony's got the information. It's going to be updated soon enough. We're going to have all that stuff there, and that just gives you that realm of the hobby. Now, the quality of them, quality is poor. I said at the outset they suck. The general, excuse me.
Where would you put them in the? Would you put them on the same par as like the raw deal, or worse?
Far worse.
Oh my,
Far
okay.
Worse. I would put them. No, the raw deal were made well. I was just going to say the quality really does suck, both the printing and the general condition of the cards. Very fuzzy images, not great card stock. Do you remember those Konamis that came out? The ones that said pops on them? You know, a lot of those were very poorly made. All of these are poorly made. But here's a good idea of how I can explain it to the audience and to the people in the hobby that want to sort of get a sense of it. If you go to Wrestling Card Price Guide and you look at the top 3 sets, or the most recent 3 sets, they happen to be 3 2021 Indian Trump sets. Now, the first one is the one that says Shane McMahon on it, and my favorite, Roman Regan's on the inside. Now, those are full of mistakes, right? Then there's the Imago set, and that one, if you look at that one, like the packaging looks fantastic from the outside. It looks like something you'd find at Walmart. You look at the cards, and they're professionally printed. They all look good, but then here we go. There's a Kevin Owens card, and it's labeled Daniel Bryan, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. Then there's a third set, and I actually was lucky enough to get a full set of images for this, and they're flawless, absolutely flawless. They're printed well. There's no mistakes on them. So it just shows you the variance. But did anybody get licenses from the copyright owners? I can't say for a fact no, but I'm pretty sure no.
Right.
And that's just how they work out there. So, you know, and this is a larger discussion that Tony and I have had, because we've tried to land on the same page with what to do with these bootlegs. And I've always said, well, once they're out there, they're out there. And, you know, we're not making a value judgment on them. We're just listing them. We're archivists. That's what we do. And yeah, and I was looking at these, and I was thinking, yeah, you know, like these really existed. The kids remember them. They're important to the kids. Look, it's almost like if you're a crime reporter, you know what I mean? You report crime statistics.
Right.
I don't condone crime. I don't do crime, but there's
just put it
value
out there and get the information for people.
There's value. And Anthony had told me that, look, there's more even still that you don't have. And I believe him, because just yesterday I found yet another one that was a sub version 2 of the ones that I had. And again, new images. And it's tricky because you might have one set made in Bombay, then another one made up north in Delhi or up towards the mountains. And they might have been printed by someone else, but distributed by the same company. So there's slight variance in the cards themselves. So it gets tricky.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, Japanese cards are a little more straightforward because I think they were more above board in their release. But these things were made by God knows who, God knows when. But we have a pretty good idea now from the work that I've been doing as to what cards came out when, and at least we're able to get them into the official record. Are they unofficial cards? Yeah. Now, I didn't mark every single one as unofficial. Just assume if the word India is in brackets, they're unofficial.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, and that seems to be, you know, the story on them. I'll tell you a few other things, just a few fun facts about him. The great Kali turns up in almost every set.
Of course.
Yeah, he's in there a lot. Now, relatively speaking, there's not a lot of females. In the recent sets more, but if you go back to stuff that maybe came out, say 2015 and earlier, you might get 1 or 2 of the female wrestlers, but that's about it. Poor Chris Masters, always Chris Master. They could never get that one right in probably about 8 different releases. It's always Chris Master, and I noticed that. I thought it's like Keith Richard and Keith Richards. Which one is it?
Yeah.
You know, my favorite of the lot, Beefcake Barber.
Oh yeah, that's good.
and excuse me, that's what these are good for. They're like the Mexican cards because you never laugh over them,
right?
You know.
Well, and it's an extra thing to add for those people out there who are like player collecting a certain wrestler. It's just something else to put in your collection.
I've got a set coming that I don't know what it is. I found them, and I couldn't match them up to anything that I'd archived, so I bought them, and I got them, and then I'll try and sort of debunk from there what they are. Gotcha. I would be very into collecting more of these. I'm half Indian to start with, but the fact is that I didn't realize that there was so many of them. And the fact that they're not mint, that they've been banged up so bad to find mint cards, like this card I just got through London from someone in Singapore via India, and rigmarole to get them, but just because I was into the Indian sets and trying to figure out, okay, where does this one fall into the mix? But,
right.
Yeah, I think that for people like me, they may be collectible because I'm interested in them, and some of the images are cool, like stuff you've never seen before.
Well, all that stuff's collectible for super collectors. Like that's kind of a thing. We're starting to see a few more people decide to go in that avenue. So, I mean, me personally, I'm a carrying cross guy, so I will go after anything. So if I found bootlegs of his printed, which I have found one that I have, I buy it. Yeah, and they're affordable. Like most of I don't care about grading them. I just want to.
They're more important for guys like us. They're collectible.
Yeah,
and that's what this is all about. Like there's a 2004 TNA Indian Trump set that has all the characters in the Pacific release from North America.
Interesting.
There's been 2 TNA sets, and they're virtually impossible to find. But you look at these and like, yeah, I'd love to have that in the collection because it's rare, like really rare.
Right.
So that's why I thought this is an interesting sort of addition to the hobby, insofar as when I teased I was coming up with all these sets, people were wondering, geez, like, what sets have I missed? I couldn't have missed that many.
Yeah, it's wrestling. We're probably going to find stuff from 50 years ago that gets uncovered one of these days.
Yeah, but to find that there were so many of these that we hadn't spoken to yet.
Right. So have you talked to people within the hobby about these cards other than myself, and what are some of the opinions that you're getting from others on it?
I haven't really. Chuck and I talk back and forth, and when I was in Anthony and when I was in Tony too, I was letting them know, I said, there's a shit ton of these things that we're missing, and more. And it got to a point where I think last week it was all I was doing for 2 days solid. It was just updating, double checking. Like I had to put my music, my real estate aside for a bit, and because once I get into something, I didn't want it lingering. Right. Okay, I want to get these, and then I opened my mouth and said I'd have them ready by the weekend, and I'm like, wow, they're not going to be ready by the weekend. But just to have something, and then of course I wanted to get them to Chuck and Tony first, so Tony has a chance to upload them when he has a chance, and then to double check with Anthony, who really was the guy that started all this, and he said, that we're not even close on the Indian stuff, and I said, yeah, I know, because I've seen 2 or 3 other samples of cards over the years that I know are Indian that are not cataloged. They're not in the official record. So that was what brought on this assignment, to sort of get them sorted out and presented. Now you're going to make this video and let people know about it. So you'll check WrestlingTradingCards.com and Wrestling Card Price Guide. Look under India and see what's there, and start looking around on eBay. There's actually an Amazon India where you can buy the Amango set, but they won't ship to Canada. I don't know if they'll ship to the States or not. So some of this stuff is gettable, some of the newer stuff, but some of that older TNA stuff is really nice.
Is that making it even harder for you to get the cards based on the Canadian shipping?
Yeah, that's a problem in general for me, Zhan, with wrestling cards, not just India. It's a problem. God bless Chuck. He gets a lot of the indie stuff for me and sends it to me in batches. Like I wouldn't have been able to do tops now and that stuff. It's what happened. I've spoken before about this, but basically in Canada, in around 2015, eBay introduced the global shipping program. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what was the point of that was to make it easier for sellers, obviously in the States, to not have to worry about the relative duties and the different shipping costs. But it really hurt up here because the costs skyrocketed, like they quadrupled in some cases. So it made it virtually inefficient to buy a relic card.
Well, and I can say too that it's actually money wise I'm not sure, but I don't ship outside on my eBay store. I don't ship outside the US because I've tried the global shipping program and my packages get lost or something always happens, and it's been easier for me to make an exception here and there and just mail it directly to the person in Canada or the UK or wherever it is.
And I buy a lot of this product, so I have to deal with these hurdles.
Right.
But it really gotten bad over these last few years. Now, we figure it out, and you have friends in high places, and they get the product to you. But if I needed something of yours, we'd figure a way. But you know what I'm saying? Like the guy in Texas that I just buy something on eBay, like the FCWs. There was a bunch I was trying to buy, and I couldn't get them, and after a while, Chuck and I started to realize there's something up with these. They're not real. And I don't know if that's ever been discussed, but if anyone's...
I actually bought a set from a notorious, I'll call him scammer on Mercari. A lot of people have called this guy out. I reported him to them and they still let him sell the stuff, but he sells He sells bootleg cards, passes them off as actual cards. He sells
What had happened?
those.
What had happened was I got beat legit, several $100, and then the
Mhm.
same cards came up again, and I asked Chuck to bid again, and again. By the third time, I realized, okay, now I want them to figure out what's going on with these, because I don't think they're real at this point. I think that
Right.
there's something up with them. But yeah, it's good that we mentioned this. It's outside of our topic here. But yeah, FCW cards, I've noticed, we know about the WCW autographs, but the FCW cards, if you see batches of them in big numbers, buyer beware.
Yeah, especially of those big names. Like I think I've started seeing some more come out. People putting them in lots of like the lower name guys. I would say those are probably legit, but I think the ones we're talking about are like, the Roman Reigns and
Yep.
the Bray Wyatt and the Ambrose and all them.
Yeah. Yeah, the big
So
ones.
speaking of that, let's tie that back into these Indian cards. What do you think? Do you think there's going to be any kind of a crossover between this indie card explosion that we've seen and the fact that they seem to be accepting now of like unofficial releases but official?
Well,
How do you think that's going to tie in
I
here?
thought about that. First thing I thought about is, okay, is there an American Dragon, or is there a
Mhm.
20-year-old Nick Gage, or is there an Edge and a Christian? Because we've uncovered a lot of stuff in the Japanese
Right.
world that is technically, if not the rookie card, their first appearance.
Correct.
And it's like the 95 Paninis. I accept that the world isn't going to accept the Triple H as the rookie, but they can't deny it is the first appearance.
Right.
And that's what I was looking for in these Indian sets. And I found one, and I'm like, haha, this is a good one if it's true. And I found a 94 Owen Hart.
Oh my.
And
Yeah.
there's a 94 action-packed Owen Hart. And have a look at the card. It's listed on my site in the 94 Universal. I can't say if it came out before the action-packed, but maybe.
If it's the same year, I say it counts.
It could do. But are we ever going to treat any of these releases as legit? Like look at the Charlotte Slam Attacks. Do we not count that as a rookie?
Yeah. Most
Yeah,
people do.
so
Yeah.
I don't know of any. Like I didn't find any that right away, other than that at Owen, and I didn't really scour, but
Mhm.
I'd like them more for like the crazy names like S. Benjamin, S.
Yeah.
Michaels. You get a lot of those. My S. Benjamin was the same, because a few sets would go like that, and I'm thinking poor Shelton, S. Benjamin.
Yeah.
Beefcake Barber had to be my favorite.
Yeah,
Then
that's so far of everything you've said, that's my favorite. But I think that's
that's
also
a good
because
one.
me and Tony pick on Beefcake all the time.
Yeah, I remember you did your first let's pick his best card, and the guy you picked was like, this is who you're starting
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. So talking about like collectability and the market and stuff, like I think sometimes it's funny that we have we say the wrestling card community is like this small tight knit thing, but within that we're even seeing different avenues. And I know I know you're a good person to talk to about this, because you do the market kind of review with Tony every month on the WTC YouTube page, but you're also a set collector and you kind of run with that. So what do you think there's going to be a demand for these either now or later with that indie buzz, like people player collecting or set collecting? Do you think there's going to be start being a demand?
It starts with knowledge, right? Like 2
Sure.
weeks ago, we didn't know about them. Now we
Right.
do. Now I posted them on my site. Tony's going to have them on WTC. You're making this video. Anthony is going to try and get more images, even so that when the new site is up, when the new Husker Half site is up, they're all being displayed.
Mhm.
So why not? Why not? I mean, you're eventually
Yeah.
going to run out of things that there's always going to be indie stuff, but this just like as a set collector, it's a hard yes for me. If I could get these sets in good condition, the problem then is that they're beat up pretty bad.
Mhm.
And on my market scenes, for example, I bought them way back in the day, and I got 2 mint sets and one that was just beat up, and I never replaced it. And now I look at that and I'm like, nowadays, it doesn't do me no good to have a bad set of market scenes, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I never replaced them along years. And I bought them for like $20 back then, and they're what, 200, God knows now. But
Yeah.
point is that if I could get hold of these, yes, and I did buy one set recently just because I couldn't identify it and it looked different. And you see, like Russell Warehouse has a few odd pieces of things that look like they're in mint condition, like single cards. But yeah, like it's possible for sure, if you're a super PC collector, if you're McGrath that's into the Rock, well, you want the Rock cards from India, don't you?
Right.
Right. If you could find a Karrion Kross card, and you may do, look on this 2021 and see if he's listed there.
Right.
Certainly I found some angles that would be of interest to Tony. So I think the answer has to be yes, because whether you treat them as game cards or trading cards is not right, because they were never traded.
Right.
The kids didn't trade them. It wasn't that mentality. The kids played them though. And from my talkings to once removed, a kid that was there at the time that went to see Bret Hart, he conveyed nostalgia and sentimentality from actually playing those Trump wrestling.
That's enough to start collecting right there.
So that legitimates them in my book. Now, who made them, is for we crazy guardians of the hobby to decide what we'll allow and we won't. But I think we pretty much decided to allow anything if it makes it to market. Buyer beware on contraband stuff. And we're not talking about the guy that's ripping off FCW cards. We're talking about the guy that goes and makes his own custom set. And it's not for me to be the arbiter of this stuff, but I find it a little more forgivable in India because of the economy and the way things work over there in general with everything else than I might find over here.
Sure. Yeah, and it's interesting to see that there's some people within our hobby space that may not consider these cards, but they consider the indie cards, or maybe they didn't used to consider the indie cards because they're not pack pulled or whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of demand and what kind of legitimacy people see these as. I think we've got, it's a little bit segregated. We've got the people who just want mainstream pack pullable official cards they can grade, and then we've got other people who are just like, I like to collect. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens between that group and if there's crossover.
Consider the AEW sets, the couple that came out in 2019. They were contraband, but they're massively collectible. You're all in sets. I mean, they're not really contraband. I think they were authorized, but the point is that some of this stuff falls into that gray area. And what I wanted to do was right out the hop clarify what these are. So it's very clear that we know that WWE didn't give the printer the okay to make these ever on 40 sets, but that speaks to the way things work in India. And again, these companies, like the ones that I have is the Mahavir set, and then Chuck got a set a year later, same layout, put out by Cadbury Milk. Now Cadbury's Cadbury, right? Now the cards themselves, Cadbury didn't have permission to make, and they're Cadbury, right? So at the end of the day, you just have to appreciate them for what they were and for when they were. And to your point, I think that could make them collectible, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of Indian kids, and I'll say this: since I posted them, I've gotten a ton of traffic from India, and a bunch of people ask me where they can get them from. So,
that's great.
So I think it's more to what you guys are doing all the time. It's just bringing knowledge to the hobby, putting stuff out there so that people can get a sense of, oh, didn't know about these. Well, that's cool. That's it. And if they're not for you, great, on to your next thing. But I thought they were cool, and I thought that it was necessary to get the record sort of up to date with them. So
yeah, that's what we're here to do, is get the information out and just help people with whatever they're collecting, whether it's high-end shiny stuff or low-end complete sets of gaming cards.
I say this time and time again, thanks to you and to Tony and these guys, the Card Foundation guys, for giving the platform for people to get this knowledge and to have a chance to learn about this stuff.
Right. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for talking about this set. You got anything else you want to say, parting words for this set?
No, just if you happen to see them from India, they're an interesting variation in your wrestling card trading hobby, but they're there, and there's some neat stuff there. Go on to the Wrestling Card Price Guide, type India under your search term, and you're going to get 41 different sets, and then flip through them and look at the different images I've picked. I've chosen ones. I tried to find ones that were funny, that were misprints, that were odd. I picked your Miz one because I thought,
thanks.
The Miz wishes he ever looked that good. Roman Reigns, that kind of thing, because for me, it's like when I'm doing this, I'm doing it all for fun, sharing information with you guys, obviously. But for me, this is still a labor of love that I've been doing this for so long. And I get a lot of good feedback back, and I do appreciate it. A lot of people say, Paul, thanks. Look, you're putting in a lot of time, and you're doing this and doing that, and it's good that you've added so much to the record. And even Anthony appreciates it because he's banging away on trying to get his site back up, and I'm going out and archiving even more stuff for him. And like I say, the more stuff we know, Richard Veligan in Japan, and Chuck, all the work that he does, like, you have no idea how much work Chuck does for this hobby. Like, seriously, he really has put in countless hours of his own personal time, and he's done it all just for the love of trading cards, so God bless.
Right. And also your flip throughs. Those have been very helpful for me, just trying to identify a card. I used to go to WTC, and we don't have images yet sometimes. And even like you'll have variations sometimes through the flip throughs that I couldn't find anywhere else. So I'll have to use the flip through. So guys, definitely go check out the Wrestling Card Price Guide for the. Oh yeah, go ahead.
If I'll get in trouble with Tony, but I have offered to Tony that he can put the flip throughs on WTC.
Okay.
On each page. and he's done one on his chromies. And I said, yeah, dude, he's just behind on.
Yeah. I talked to him quite a bit.
I've got no problem with those flip throughs being shared, because again, it's not a my thing, your thing. It's our thing, right? It's like in real estate, when you do a home inspection, the obligation is not to the buyer, to the seller, but to the house, and you want to make sure that that's represented accurately. Similarly here, it doesn't do me any good to have a bunch of sets and then it not be on WTC if someone goes there, so that's the idea. And Anthony's got a lot of this stuff for sale, so we want to get his site up there. So we're all sort of helping each other hand in hand, just for the overall benefit of the hobby.
Right. Well, Paul, thanks again for everything you do for the hobby, and thanks for coming on to spread this wealth of information. Let everybody know where they can find you, the website, all that stuff before we get out of here.
Yeah, it's www.thewrestlingcardpriceguide.com, and that's where you'll find these Indian sets. And again, if you want to look at the Indian sets specifically, you can search anything on my site. You can type in India, you can type in WWE, you can type in a name. You can't search the tables individually, but you can search the 600 or so sets that we have here. Twitter is card_guide, and I'm there every day, sort of in the conversation with everybody else, posting stuff and spreading the good word.
Yep, that's what we're here to do, is just, keep talking about wrestling cards, get the information out there. Paul, thanks again for coming on. As always, you and Chuckster, you guys are like my oddball guys. So anytime there's some new weird set, you guys are coming on.
We're here and happy to do it, my friend.
And there you have it. I hope everybody enjoyed this video looking at these really interesting cards from India, shining light on yet another random oddball release. Thanks again to Paul and Ann from the Wrestling Card Price Guide for being such a pillar in the hobby and having the information available for people. What do you, the viewers, think of these cards? Are you going to try to chase down some of these? You want to put one of the sets together? Are you looking to add these to your player collection of whoever it is you collect? Or are you completely against these because they aren't official releases and you just consider them bootlegs? And another question would be maybe, what do you think the market is going to be for these? Are they so rare that they're not collectible? That does happen from time to time. People want things, but they're just, unattainable. So people are like, I'm not going to collect it. I don't know. Maybe that's something with these. But I'd love to hear your comments. Leave a comment below with what you think of this set. Are you chasing them? Are you not? What do you think? Do you think they suck? You think they're awesome? It doesn't matter. If you have an opinion on these cards, please drop a comment below. And while you're there, don't forget to check out links to Paul's Wrestling Card Price Guide, as well as links to all the ways that I talked about earlier in this video that you can help show your support for my content, as well as everything else that I'm involved in. Again, links to everything is in the show notes below. Thanks again for taking your time out of your day to watch this video. If you're digging it, hit that subscribe button, give me a like, share it with a friend. But until next time, click the videos on the screen for more great wrestling card content. We'll see you there.